Privyet, good morning, Sawadee krap, as we said in Thailand. My name is Vincent Ribiere. I'm the Managing Director of the Institute for Knowledge and Innovation at Bangkok University. It's a great pleasure and a great honor to be here, invited at the Retail Week in Moscow this week, and particularly in this track on co-creation and innovation. So just to tell you a few words about our institute. So our institute is a center of excellence in the field of knowledge management and innovation management, hosted by Bangkok University in Thailand. So we do academic work, research, but we also work closely with companies in Thailand, Southeast Asia, to help them leverage and start their innovation or their knowledge management initiatives. Now, I'm here today to talk to you about team creativity and the roles it plays in innovation. So as we all know, everyone nowadays is talking about innovation. All the organization wants to become more innovative. And we know that's a way to gain a competitive advantage. So innovation distinguishes a leader and a follower. So the question is, do you want to be a follower and expire, or do you really want to be an innovator and so be able to be on top of your game? Now, there is always a bit of confusion between creativity and innovation, and so people don't always understand how they link with each other. So there is this very simple formula that says creativity plus action equal innovation. So it's nice to have good ideas, but if you don't do anything about them, or if you're not able to transform them into successful products, services, or business model or processes, then nothing will happen. So today we'll focus a little bit on the creativity part of it, which is at the core of innovation. And also all along the innovation process, creativity is needed to support and to find solutions to challenges that companies are facing in their innovation journey. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the evolution of creativity without giving you a lecture on the topic. Today, I'm trying to give you a quick overview of this concept of team creativity that you will understand is quite important. Hopefully, we will have other opportunity to go in much more detail about such of this aspect. So if we look back at the studies and the research that were done about creativity, it was mainly at the beginning focusing on the individual creativity, how to understand why people are creative, why geniuses are creative, why Da Vinci or other geniuses were creative. So lots of studies were done around this. Later on, and nowadays, there is much more interest about how teams can be creative and how this common creativity collaboration and communication can help organizations to be more innovative. Now, we are also talking a lot about what we call the creative economy and how, for instance, developing countries can help develop these creative economies that will help them to be competitive compared to other parts of the world. Now, the question always goes back, how do you measure creativity? So, at the individual level, there are lots of different tools that were developed. I will just present a couple of them today that I personally like. One of them is called Creative Profiler, and that was developed by a French university. So that looks at creativity, individual creativity through 10 different dimensions, what we call cognitive resources. So the ability of the individual, for instance, to have divergent thinking, so to be open, to have some analytical thinking, to be able to look at the problem in its whole and not just be narrow focused, and also to be able to combine some ideas together to find solution. And there are also what we look at cognitive resources, which are more traits or behavior of the individual that helps this individual to be more or less creative. So Creative Profiler is a tool that will present at the end a profile of the individual to see his or her strengths and weaknesses on these different aspects of creativity. There are other well-known assessment tools. One of them is called Foursight, which looked at individual or which profile individuals through 4 types of creative thinking: the clarifier, the ideator, the developer, and the implementer, each of them having different traits and each of them complementing each other's. Another one, which has been developed by one of our colleagues here, tips, help also to look at the creative profile through 9 different lenses, which is much more specific, and again helps to see a little bit what are some of the cognitive but also preferences of the individual who's part of the team to be able to contribute to the overall creativity of the team. So all these tools are done at the individual level, but it's important to know that they exist, and we will see that the individual creativity is somehow part of the creative to the creativity of the team. Now, we always say 1 + 1 = 3. So we know that when we get people together, their creative power or even their collaborative power can generate more than what they will have been able to do on their own. So we could think that, well, taking the creativity of each individual in a team and adding it up will come up with the overall creative profile of the team. But unfortunately, that's not true. That's partially true, but that's not fully true. There are other components that I will describe to you today that helps to make a team creative. Now, you can make an analogy with soccer players. So I know that the World Cup is approaching. And so if you take, for instance, the best player in the world, so the analogy here will be the most creative people in the world, and you put them in the team. So you take the best soccer player in the world, you put them in the team, and it's very likely that the team is not going to perform well, okay? And not as well probably as a team which have maybe some good or some excellent player, but also some other player which don't have their level of expertise and experience and so on. So taking all the most creative people in the world and putting them in the team probably will not create as good result or as the best result as we will have expected as we will have for a team of soccer players. Now, let me share a little bit what we believe are the team creativity DNA. So what are the components of team creativity that makes a team very creative? So there are 4 components. The first one is a team composition, and I'm going to describe each of them in detail later on. So who are the members of the team that compose this team, more or less? The team structure, how is the team structures, what are the relationship in between them, and how do they work as a team? There is a team climate also, which makes how do the interactions, the communication among the team members are working. And then later on, there is all the contextual information or all the environment in which this team is performing. And we're going to see that this has also positive or negative factors among the team's creativity potential. Now, let's look at first the team composition. So there are lots of indicators. I showed you before some tools that helps to identify the personality or the creative potential of an individual, but also there are other attributes that will help to identify the potential of creative potential of each team member in the team. There is this well-known model from Teresa Amabile, who's a professor at the Harvard Business School, that says that there are 3 components for individuals to be creative. First of all, they need to have expertise, which means they need to have all the skills that will help them all the skills, the knowledge that will help them to perform the task. And so this knowledge will help to, this can be procedural or intellectual type of knowledge, will help them to be able to overcome this challenge or find novel solutions to challenges or find creative ideas. Then there are the creativity skills. So the creativity skills are more some of does the individual possess this, for instance, a divergent thinking capability, is able to mix things together. So does this person is aware of it, knows the tool, use the tool to be able to be creative. And then there is another component which is very, very important, which is a task motivation. So the task motivation is what drives people to be creative. Are there more some extrinsic motivators? So for instance, do they expect reward and recognition to be creative? Or are there more intrinsic motivation? So more things that they want to be creative, or they want to find novel solution because that's some things that they believe in and that they feel is natural for them to achieve. Now, if we look, so just coming back to the previous slide, so managers, of course, can help to create an environment that helps to support and to further develop or exploit this each individual creativity. So they have a role to play. The team structure, so it's about how the team as a whole collaborates, the cohesiveness of the team, the size of the team, how long the team has been working with each other, the leadership style also. And so I picked a couple of very important attributes of this dimension. First of all, if you bring people, and that's what happens very often, unfortunately, in teams which have similar background to solve problems, then you get homogeneous teams. So you get this problem of what we call groupthink or homophily. So it means that everyone, because they come from the same background, have the same view, the same approach, thinks the same way, and they somehow like to think the same way, and they like to be the same. So at the end, the solutions that they provide are very likely not to be so creative. They fit more or less the profile of the member. So you want to get in your team as much diversity as you can. Diversity doesn't mean that you have as many male, as many females, or as many Asian, as many Westerners, or whatever. It's more about the skills, the abilities, and the cognition of each of the members. So you need to have diversity into this cognition and skills to help get this diversity that will drive innovation. So diversity is key. And again, some of the individual tools, creativity assessment tools that I presented early on, helps to identify such kind of things. Now, what are some of the creative drivers for these teams? What will make them more creative? First of all, there is what we call their absorptive capacity. So their ability to be able to identify, recognize valuable external information that can contribute to finding solution or to be able to be creative. So it's a little bit like being a sponge, being able to get this information and be able later on to share it among the team members, so this information can be reused to address problem or find creative solution. Then there is the requisite variety. That's what I just previously explained. So to have different type of cognition and a different type of way of people thinking, and this again will bring a lot of new ways to look at problem through different lens and allow to find a creative solution. The third one is network variety. So network variety is the ability of each of the members of the team to have and tap into their network. And again, if they come from the same background, it's very likely that their network might be the same. But if they come from different backgrounds, they might be part of different network outside of the organization or even inside the organization. And tapping into this network to find new ideas, new solutions, or to see what's happening, what's the new knowledge out there, again, will help bring diversity and new, novel, and diverse ideas to the team. Then creative destruction. So this is more the willingness or the to question the past and to be willing to change the past, not stay into your comfort zone, but be willing to destroy the past to come up with new solutions that might be more efficient, more creative, or novel to bring this creativity. And again, different diversity into the way that you solve problem, having different perspective and point of view will help the team to be more creative. Now, let's look at the third one, which is the team climate. So the team climate is very important. That's more or less, we could look at the culture of the team or the climate among the team member. You have a lot of different factors that are important. Trust is very, very important among the team member. the way that they communicate in between them. But one component standout in this level is what we call team psychological safety. So the concept of psychological safety was developed by Amy Edmondson, another professor from the Harvard Business School, that described psychological safety is a shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. So is how people feel safe among the team to be able to try things, to say things that might not be right, to fail, and without taking any consequences out of this. So if there is no such psychological safety, so people will fear of admitting their mistakes, that will lead very likely to blame others. And so it's more likely that people will share different view, and then later on this will drive to somehow just sharing what you feel or what the other know. And this will have an effect on knowledge sharing, low knowledge sharing, and also sharing just about things that are perceived to be right or to be good or admitted by the team. Now, when you have psychological safety, so there is a comfort of admitting mistakes, so it's okay to make mistakes, and the team is okay with that and will pardon that and will use this as a learning. So and so everyone will be more open to share ideas around this, and then this will lead, of course, to better innovation. So we know that when you want to innovate, you need to fail. You cannot innovate without failing. So accepting failure should be part of the learning process that will help teams to innovate. Now, an example of that is Google. Google launched a study a couple of years ago to look at how all their teams are operating, what makes some of the team work well, some of them work less well, and so on. So they have conducted all kinds of studies, who eats with who during lunchtime, are people friends with each other, and so on. And so they were really not able to find some real pattern. And some of the few things that they were able to identify as a key factor for success for their team is this level of team psychological safety among the team members. So I believe that, this is an article from the New York Times. You can Google it, and you will be able to find much more about it, but very interesting. So this concept of team psychological safety, very, very important, and you can measure it and you can build it among your team if it's not there. So again, team psychological safety will allow people to take risks, to give feedback, to learn, to experiment, and so on. So lots of positive factors when there is such climate of team psychological safety. And the last one, and not least, is the environmental factors in which the team operates. So the team does not operate in a vacuum. It operates as part of a business unit in an organization. And all these factors somehow influence how well the team will be motivated to be creative, or will be given the resources to be creative. And again, if there is no such support or recognition, and leadership here is very important. So to be able to nurture this team creativity is critical. So creating this environment, again, has a lot to do also with how leaders lead the organization and recognize the value of team and team creativity. So this try to give you an overview in less than 20 minutes about what team creativity is all about. There are a lot of other factors that I didn't have enough time to present to you today, but there's a lot of things to be learned, and team play a very, very important role in terms of creativity and innovation in the organization, since the problems that companies are facing nowadays are more and more complex. They cannot be solved at the individual level, and only teams can, combining their creativity, be able to address and to find creative solutions to this problem. So consequently, I wish you a very creative World Cup, and I hope you got some new ideas from my talk today. So it's time to kickstart the creativity in your teams at work. And again, creativity is everywhere, and it's just a problem of nurturing it and recognizing it and supporting it to make it happen. Spasibo. Thank you very much. Kapun Makrap. And I hope to see you soon, probably in Moscow, maybe in a future event in September or later on. Thank you, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Don't hesitate to email me if there is any question you might have. Bye-bye.